So for those who thought that I completely forgot about Alabama basketball, do not be mistaken. I have been watching a ton of Nate Oats. Of course, if you guys have been following the channel, I covered some Alabama basketball before. I am a huge fan of Nate Oats. Of course, the fact that he used to coach the UB Bulls men's basketball team. I am from Buffalo. So I'm a person, I've been to a bunch of UB games. I've seen Nate Oats. I've met Nate Oats. He's a great guy. And he's a phenomenal coach. I've seen what he does with guys that come straight out of community college that weren't ranked, high school prospects that weren't ranked as well. And I've seen that if you just give them more time, give them more development, give them just really give these kids the proper opportunities and the proper coaching, what he can do with them, and he can pretty much turn them into juggernaut players. I've seen what he did. He turned UB into a juggernaut. 3 out of the 4 appearances. In the NCAA tournament. And of course, his last year there was the best record that UB, I think, ever had. And the fact that they almost made it to the Sweet 16. Of course, they won the first round, but did not win the second round. But they almost made it to the Sweet 16 a couple years before. They beat a number 2 seed in Arizona with the number 1 overall pick in DeAndre Ayton. So yes, Nate Oats is a phenomenal coach. He's a guy that heavily focuses on perimeter shooting on the outside. He focuses a lot on strength and conditioning, on getting his players on really playing fast-paced basketball and being very strong in the interior. And Nate Oats, man, he instills intensity. He instills leadership. He just instills all the qualities that you need and just really having not only a successful head coach, but having a successful basketball team and program. So obviously when he came to Alabama, I was excited. Of course, a lot of Bama fans really didn't know too much about Nate Oats. I've talked to some guys, some people that cover Alabama. They didn't really know too much. They knew that he was a good coach for UB, but they just didn't know if he was going to really turn the basketball program, because everyone thought that Avery Johnson was going to do it, and he looked like he kind of did with getting a recruit like Colin Sexton. And of course, they ended up making the Sweet 16. But of course, a couple years later, Avery Johnson gets fired, and all of a sudden, here comes Nate Oats. So what with Nate Oats, I knew that it was going to take from some time, some development. Of course, Bama fans wanted right away that, hey, if this is going to be the guy that's going to be replacing Avery Johnson, a former NBA head coach, maybe, Nate Oats, he's just got to be that good. And obviously the first year was a little bit more of a disappointment. They were pretty weak in the interior. This team was just, they weren't conditioned enough to play the type of style, the type of fast pace that Nate Oats, that you're used to kind of seeing Nate Oats teams used to be playing at the pace. So obviously it was a more of a disappointing year, but with this year alone, for what I was able to see, and just watching some of the Alabama basketball games that I was able to see so far, is that this team looks faster, they look stronger, and that leadership quality is there. They bring back pretty much almost the entire team, except for one player who was off to the NBA, Kiara, I think his name is Kiara Jackson. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, Kiara Jackson, he ends up going to the NBA. He gets drafted in the second round. That's pretty much the only huge player that left. You return back John Petty. You return back Jaden Shackelford, Alex Reese, Herbert Jones. You also get a 5-star recruit in Josh Primo. You return back pretty much, Keon Ellis, just a whole bunch of other players returning back as well. So you get that, you have that leadership of juniors and seniors that are there with some very talented players that are stepping up for your recent recruiting classes. And again, the team just looks physically, they look physically strong. They look very quick. They're fat. They're very quick. They're fast. They know what type of plays that they want to run. They're they can be very good on the perimeter shooting if you give them the time and the space. And again, they're really good in the interior, especially when it comes to interior defending. One of my biggest complaints about the Alabama basketball team from last year was that they were weak. Not only weak in the interior, but they just could not guard the interior. There was something about it. They can guard the perimeter, but when it came to doing something in the interior, when it came to interior defense, they just couldn't they couldn't hang. They were too small. They were not physical enough. But this year alone, they look a lot more stronger. And that's something that I like. They're one of the best teams in college when it comes to playing inside the interior. Now, of course, they got 5 losses, but I feel like their 5 losses, they're not playing to the best of their ability. It seems like when they, looking at these losses, they're learning a lot. There's something that they can definitely learn from, that they can grow from with every loss that they kind of take. And you kind of see that every time they kind of take a loss, right? They don't just take back-to-back losses. They bounce back with a dominating performance the next week. That's one of the things that I was extremely impressed with when it came to this team, just kind of the versatility that we've seen so far from this team. One of the most impressive moments that I was able to see was seeing Nate Oats when the game was out of hand, when Bama is just blowing out, and I think it was not against Georgia, this was against LSU. They were blowing out LSU, and I think it was Keon Ellis who he took up on the sideline. Keon Ellis, I think, made a dumb mistake, and Nate Oats he just coached him up, yelled at him, was just coaching him up. Really, just again, not lowering that intensity. That intensity continued to go through the roof, and I'm not saying it's Nick Saban quality or Nick Saban like, but the best coaches, man, they don't quit. The best coaches, they don't give up, they don't quit. When they're up ahead, they continue to coach. They continue to coach their kids hard. They continue to try to push and make them better. That's what the great coaches do, and that's something that I did not see this with Avery Johnson or some of the other past Alabama coaches that we've seen before in the past. With Nate Oats, you're seeing a little bit more of greatness, or why he was that damn good. Why he was one of the best coaches when he was with the UB Bulls. So, obviously, the SEC tournament is coming up. Obviously, they're favorites to win it all. They're favorites to win the SEC regular championship, and then there's the SEC tournament that they got to go through, and then, of course, there's the NCAA tournament that they also have to go through as well. Obviously, the NCAA tournament is one thing that Alabama fans have been craving for, is a national championship. That's the question. Can they win a national title? They have a chance to. Right, this team reminds me a little bit of Virginia, right? Virginia in 2019, they didn't have any superstars. There's no superstars on this Crimson Tide basketball program. Virginia just had a bunch of good players, tons of really, really great leaders. They were really good in the interior. They can shoot on the outside if they really wanted to. Bama has kind of the same thing, right? Herbert Jones is a phenomenal three-point shooter, but an excellent defender. He's more of a two-way player, can defend. Is probably the best defender on the team, but is a pretty good three-point shooter. Keon Ellis is also a pretty good defender as well, for what I was able to see. I was able to see Jaden Shackelford was able to step up as well. Javon Quinley stepped up his game. John Petty continues to kind of be one of the more anchors of this Bama program, as he's now more of a fifth-year player. Alex Reese is okay. I mean, that's pretty much what I can say. Alex Reese is pretty much Alex Reese. But Josh Prebo, a guy's a true freshman, a guy that's five-star guy, five-star kid from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, stepped up his game. Obviously, what we've seen from Josh Primo so far has been absolutely short but phenomenal. Not like he was Colin Sexton. But Josh Primo is a guy that you can definitely sit here and say that, hey, maybe a year or two from now, he's going to be the future of this program as Alabama continues to recruit at a high level. And that's one thing I'll talk about. That's going to be my last point, is that Bama's recruiting at a pretty high level right now. They're second right now in recruiting when it comes to SEC play. They have a five-star athlete. They got a couple more kids that are interested in the program that are top-tier recruits. So if Alabama can continue this momentum, if they can continue this momentum going throughout their tournament, recruit at a very, very high level, we're not just talking about Alabama being a one-year wonder where, hey, Kentucky is falling off, and the next year they're going to bounce back, and then Alabama's going to go all the way back to the bottom. You're talking maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years from now that Alabama is a top-tier program, not only in football, but in basketball, and hopefully the momentum can continue on with other sports programs within the Alabama Crimson Tide. But man, oh man, oh man, I am excited to see what Nate Oats does with this program. I'm excited to see what this team can do during their SEC tournament and during the course of the national tournament. And if Alabama can keep this momentum, they can end up being national champions pretty quickly, because this team definitely has the talent. This team definitely has the leadership. They got all the qualities. Obviously, we're going to find out, but I am very excited to see what the future holds for the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team.